All right, here we are.
Back in the saddle.
Well, hello everybody and welcome to Monday Night Live. Kate Simmons, the lovely, amazing Kate Simmons, myself, Dean Nixon, in a beautiful St. George. People are telling me now they need the weather report. I keep getting feedback. Don't stop the weather report. So
I don't know. It's got to make everybody on the East Coast feel not awesome.
Well, it is 90 degrees today.
Yes.
In sunny St. George, and it is beautiful out.
Mm-hmm.
So I am grateful that we are back in the temperatures I enjoy.
We basically skipped through spring, #thanks Corona, and just right on into summer temps, right?
But Kate is not bitter, as you can tell.
No, bring on the sunshine.
Super not bitter.
I'm not. That just means one step closer to laying out next to a swimming pool
there you
for
go.
me. So.
Well, we are excited to join you guys tonight and get on to our topic. Tonight's topic we're super excited about. This is a topic that is very near and dear to the Turning Leaf Wellness Center's mission. It plays off of, I don't have my book right here, the book, The 4 Steps to Confidence. And
you must have given it out.
I did give it out, actually. I gave it to a client. And so the 4 steps to confidence. And so we wanted to talk and spend some time today working on
Step 1.
Step 1 of the 4 steps to confidence,
right.
Which is
to take healthy risks.
To take healthy risks.
I love this step, Dean. It's quite literally my favorite one, probably because it's fun.
It can
and anything that is fun is like major motivation for me. I'm like, oh yeah, I get it. Let's do this healthy risk thing. Whereas making and keeping commitments is not as often very fun, and where I have a hard time.
It is interesting. It's funny that you bring that up, because as I work through with people through the 4 Steps to Confidence series, and I know you do this, and yes. Jamie Leitner does this out in Michigan. And so as we use this as one of the coaching methods that we use, the 4 Steps to Confidence, it's intriguing to me how different we all are. There's a group of us that struggle with taking healthy risks and really staying in that safe comfort zone and really not moving forward in life. Then there are those that really struggle with setting and keeping healthy boundaries, right. and holding those boundaries on a lot of different levels. And when we think about boundaries, we always think about the boundaries of like, don't say that to me, or I don't like this, that's my boundary. But I'm talking more on the boundaries with ourselves and with ourselves emotionally, with other people emotionally, as well as the others. And then others keeping and making and keeping commitments. And then yet others struggle with creating a safe environment for themselves. Right. And so these are the 4 steps. But it is always intriguing to me as I work with individuals where you can see certain personalities showing up in certain areas,
right,
more than others.
Right, and that was one of my favorite things to discover as we dig into that coaching tool, as you described already, that all of us do have that one area in the 4 steps that really just kind of, kind of like, we can get moving forward, then we like hit that little snag and like, oh man, here I am back at keeping commitments. But today we're talking healthy risks.
Healthy risks.
And I love it.
And so that's, the first piece is always clarifying, what is a healthy risk? Because risk, for starters, there's a difference between healthy risk and unhealthy risk. And that's where a lot of people, when I start talking to them about taking healthy risks to build their confidence or to build that understanding of self, the first immediate reaction is, whoa, wait, no, I don't want to take those risks, or the fear of, well, what are you going to ask me to do? Yeah. What are you going to want me to do? And so that's the difference. Is one of the things is to really understand what healthy risks are.
Because healthy risks aren't reckless. That's unhealthy risks, right? So that's the difference. We've got healthy risks that we can participate in, or we have unhealthy risks that we participate in. And newsflash, you probably do a little bit of both more often than you are even aware.
Right. We think about healthy risks being something that moves us forward and moves other people forward. Healthy risks are things that help us to learn, to progress, to grow. They sometimes are uncomfortable for us to do, but there are also some things that may not be uncomfortable, but they just may be things that we've procrastinated doing or things that we've put off. The unhealthy risks tend to be a lot more self-destructive. They tend to be a lot more comfort zone living and staying in that comfort zone space. And we have a harder time really recognizing. So sometimes, for example, taking unhealthy risks, there's a lot of unhealthy risks that people take in, let's say, diet and the things that they're eating on a regular basis that are really long-term unhealthy for us. And it is one of those things. Well, we're like, well, it's not a risk. I mean, it's no big deal. I'm just, doing this or participating in this. And we really don't recognize how unhealthy that can be for us. Even into the point where we're not confronting issues can be an unhealthy risk. Because if I've got things that are going on in my life or things that are going on in relationships that I'm not addressing or talking about, and I'm thinking, well, it's not really risk, it only hurts me, or it's only affecting me. But the reality is long term, it can be very detrimental. So we don't see those things as unhealthy risks.
Right. We don't even see them as risks.
But they really
are.
But
they definitely are. Absolutely. Yeah.
And so simple healthy or the healthy risks that we may be taking every day, like you said, are things we may not recognize as risks. We may not think them like, oh, this may not be a risk, or see that as risky, but standing up for ourselves, expressing our opinions, calling people when we feel prompted to, when we think, oh, or why should I do that? But you respond to that discerning voice. The times that you have said hello to people walking past them and taken the risk to be vulnerable with them. Right. Asking people how they're doing. So there's also things that we do for ourselves that are healthy risks, like going to the gym, exercising, taking that college course that we've always been putting off, or sitting down and taking time for yourself. And so when we think of risk, we always think about these big things, like, jumping off a cliff, or, skydiving, or base jumping, or, bungee jumping. And we think, well, that's a risk. That's what a risk is. But that is a risk. And in some ways it can be healthy, depending on your personality and who you are. In some ways it can be unhealthy. Right. And those are things that are really important for us to determine. Absolutely.
And I love, this is a perfect segue into kind of where we wanted to take this tonight, because all these things that you're talking about, Dean, are also very discoverable about ourselves, right? Which is another thing that happens often in our coaching sessions, or ones that I do anyway. People come in and they're like, I don't really know what I like or who I am, or any of those things. Like, I don't really know myself, and they're on this pathway of self-discovery and really understanding who they are. And healthy risk is one of the best ways to really start peeling those layers back in you. Yeah. In discovering that self. And we've done a number of I don't know if they're podcasts or if it's a Monday Night Live, because we're doing both right now. So it's just content coming at you.
Hard to remember.
It's content coming at you. But recently we did one on the self. Yep. I think it was Monday Night Live. I think it was a couple weeks ago. Yes. Yep. So go check that one out if you haven't yet, because that's going to incorporate into today. What was that?
It was the blind.
There was like a lizard right there, but there wasn't. Anyway. So really looking at how to incorporate taking healthy risks in order to be able to discover you more.
Right. Yeah, it's a greater understanding and exploring of self. And that's, I think, one of the things that we don't really recognize is where a lot of our growth came as human beings, came when we were little. When you were a little kid, you used to test the boundaries all the time, and you were taking unhealthy risks, both, but you were taking risks, and you were going out and trying new things and doing things. You were playing and experiencing, like, I think about individuals that standing in the middle of Walmart and they just start dancing to the music. And, like when you were a kid, you didn't even think about that. That was just part of what you did. And nowadays for some of us, it's like, oh God, how embarrassing. That's, you're going to wind up on their website, people at Walmart or whatever it is. And so we don't put ourselves out there to really understand who we are now. And a big part of people really reconnecting to who you are, and that's one thing we hear a lot, and when we talked about the self before is, I don't know who I am. A big part of really understanding and reconnecting and understanding that you really are you and really do know who you are, part of that is experiencing and expressing those things in the way you put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And trying new things, those risks. I mean, being a kid, we were talking about this. Like, I remember just taking my bike and building these horrible wooden ramps and, putting them on a 5-gallon bucket and plank and riding and trying to go up it, and the thing would fall apart, and I'd road kill all over the road. And you
tell me literally, Dean, were you channeling your inner Evel Knievel? That's what I need to know.
I was.
Okay.
Evel Knievel was a big deal when I was a kid.
I think that's cool.
But we were jumping our bikes. We would do whatever, and you'd sometimes you were successful and sometimes you failed. But the one thing that it did is it built my understanding of who I was, and I felt very confident and spent a lot of time as a kid. I spent a ton of time on my bike riding anywhere and everywhere because I felt free. I knew who I was. I enjoyed it, but I also knew where my limits were. I also had learned through hard experiences what things you can jump off of and what things you can't, and what's safe and what's not. Now we fast forward that to today. Will you see me doing that today? No. I'm much wiser.
You traded in the bike for the longboard.
I traded in the bike for the longboard. That's true. And there are times where I'm on that longboard and I get in the speed wobbles and I'm thinking I might eat it on the road. But the one thing that I do know is that I survived road rash then. I'll survive road rash now.
Right, exactly.
And so I'm not as afraid to get out on the longboard and do a steeper hill or do a lot of those things because of the healthy risks that I've taken in my life already.
Yes.
And it does build your confidence and give you the ability to do other things. Now, I've given you some physical examples, but there's a lot of emotional examples that you're thinking of right now.
And I think that a huge piece of this if you're thinking a lot, if you're there thinking like, oh my gosh, okay, what maybe would be some healthy risks that I could take, that just like you were saying, I bet that there's a lot of them inside of you that you really haven't leaned into, because I think they come to us a little bit intuitively. Like, oh gosh, it would be pretty cool to learn how to grow a garden, right?
Yeah.
And so those are just like things that come in, like, oh, maybe I would really like that. I really kind of enjoyed just my one little plant that so-and-so gave me for my birthday or whatever. So a healthy risk would be to follow up on that. Maybe go take a course or enroll in some online stuff and actually going out and buying all the material to plot your little garden. Right now is a great time to start doing that kind of a thing. It's perfect season to start a garden.
Start a garden. Do something new.
Do something new, yes. And so when those things come across your brain, right, when they breeze across you, I think it's really easy for us to just dismiss it like, I don't really have time for that, or no, but really look and see if that's a little bit of the fear that's creeping up inside of you, like for fear of failing, like just going on this gardening thing again, right? Like that's honestly one reason I don't have a garden is because I'm afraid I'm not going to have the time to put into it, and then I'm going to have spent all this money on creating a garden that doesn't reap any harvest.
Yeah.
Right?
And I love that you say that too, Kate, because a lot of what keeps us from doing that is the future tripping.
Yes.
We run things all the way to the end and we awfulize them. And that's what's so interesting about it is that instead of just putting ourselves out there, we do exactly what you're talking about, where, oh, well, I'll probably just muck it up anyway, or I may not follow through, or instead of just going out and putting those things in play and really doing, and sometimes that overthinking process is really what keeps us from moving forward.
I would totally agree. And so if those little hits are coming to you right now, like, yeah, man, I've really actually kind of wanted to do a Bob Ross painting while I've had some time this weekend.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, like you can find him on YouTube or go to a paint night or take a class or a course or whatever that looks like, or call up the pretty girl and ask her out on a date, whatever that looks like, right? Gosh, we are just here to like cheerlead you on with that. Like, yes, because the outcome, whether or not you were successful or not, really, and this is another huge thing we brought into our discussion on our most recent podcast, which was on mindfulness, is that,
we'll put it in the links
in the
below.
Description, sure, is that really there is no fail here. Right? Even if you go into this, even if I go and plant a garden and literally nothing grows, there's going to be a lot of learning that comes from that, right? There's going to be a lot of increase of knowledge and hopefully some more confidence to, this is maybe where I didn't do it so spot on and I can try it this way different, right? And try more. So I'm just thinking like, oh gosh, Kate encouraged me to call that girl that I had my eye on or that guy that I had my eye on or whatever, right? And if you get turned down, I love you and that's painful, but it's also those little pieces that are going to increase your confidence to get what you want in life. Really, that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, the
creating
ability
the life
to
that you
push
want.
Into the unknown.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I love the gardening aspect of it that you're using, because right now that's I think there's a lot of people stepping back from this whole change of life that we're in, this crazy time we're in, and the idea of like, do people know how to garden now? Like, if things really got ugly, would you know how to plant and take care of those things? And I know with my generation, that was something that was just what we were ingrained in. But I have stepped back many times and asked myself, did I teach that to my kids? And so now for me, it's the healthy risk is do I reach out to my kids and engage them and say, hey, do you want me to teach you how to garden? Something that I learned as a child. So there's a lot of these levels of healthy risk that we can be taking that really challenge us. But again, going back to the piece that we really wanted to focus on is really the purpose in taking healthy risk, and the reason, that it builds your confidence up is because you learn more about who you are.
Yes.
The more you risk, the more you learn who you are. And the more that you take healthy risks, the more you learn about who you are. And you never truly understand the depth and breadth of who you are until you put yourself into a position where you learn. And that's where, as you were leaning in, Kate, and saying that, it's not a matter of pass or fail. It's not about of success or failure. It's a matter of results.
Yes.
And every time you push into the unknown, you get a result. That's just all it is. Some people take it as failure. Some people take it as success. But the reality is every time you push forward into the unknown, you get information back.
Yes, it's exactly what I was thinking. A discovery will happen.
Yes.
Right? You'll get information. You'll understand yourself and your preferences, your likes, your dislikes, what skill sets you have, just naturally, what your natural talents are, something that you might love but not be super talented at that you're going to increase your skill on. Or you may lean in and be like, yeah, I'm going to learn how to be a potter. And you're going to be like, yeah, no, that didn't really tickle my fancy.
I don't think I will be throwing pots anymore.
No more pot throwing for me. I'm going to go try painting with Bob Ross, because that's the only thing that's on my brain, right?
Please, all of you that are into pottery, please understand we're not bagging on pottery.
No, heavens no. And the idea is some of us will lean in and discover, wow, this is totally my jam. I really love this. I might not be awesome at it, but I really love it, right?
Yeah.
Or, wow, I've got an amazing talent for this. This actually just comes very naturally to me. Or, no, not for me.
Yeah.
And that's okay. But how on earth are you going to make those discoveries if you don't take the risk to find out?
Yep. One of the last pieces I want to add as we're running out of time is I really want to encourage everyone to be thinking about healthy risks that you can be taking that get you away from the glass window, as I call it. The glass window is what you're staring at right now. And the glass window is a healthy thing in healthy ways. It can be a healthy thing for us to learn and gather information like this and put it into our lives. But when it starts to become that time suck where we get lost in the streaming of life rather than living life, that's where we want to challenge you, is to get your healthy risks beyond the glass window. And I love those that are taking risks on the glass window.
Yes.
A moment ago, one of my good friends, Oscar, said hello and said, "I love you," up here in this feed. And I love, like, he has been getting on a regular basis, and he and his sons and his nieces and others have been singing and doing songs for people. And people love it. And that's a really good, healthy risk to be taking on the glass window. But now it's time to get outside. Now it's time to go out and get involved and engage in your life. That's going to be super important.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Well, that wraps it, Dean. We're right at time. Right. So we love you guys. We hope you have a wonderful week. Take healthy risks, learn, grow, and keep us involved and updated as you go along. Like and share our videos so that we can spread the love as far as we can. And we'll see you guys next week on
Monday Night Live.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Oh, I go up.